You're here with Drake and Robin on the Hangout Live.
Hey, hey, hey.
Hey, how you doing?
We are live, aren't we?
We are live.
I need to put my glasses on to be able to see.
I went a little premature, about 4 minutes. We had this scheduled incorrect for some reason, but they'll catch up to us. So how you doing this evening, my friend?
You know, doing pretty good. Pretty good.
Good, buddy, good. So right now, we are sitting here. We're going to pay a little tribute to our sponsors, of course. Let's talk about Media Jaw, Jody Gentry, and the team over there take great care of us. You can go to our website, thehangout.live, check that out, and look at the past shows and upcoming shows. Right?
Yes, absolutely. And who else do we got to talk about? We got
Full Spectrum CBD, brother.
Yep.
It's time to learn the truth about CBD. Know the truth. It's good for you. Makes you happy. Doesn't give you the munchies. It's all good.
It doesn't give you the munchies.
It doesn't give you the munchies.
Oh, then how are you happy without the munchies? Come on, man.
Brother, I got enough reasons to be fat and lazy. I don't need any more. All right, let's talk about media.
What about backbeat music?
Backbeat music. Alexandra, Gary, and the team over there taking great care of us as always.
Tina Collins. It's true. Tina, you're right. Yes.
What's that?
That I'm buying drinks tonight. That's what the rumor was. So I'm like, yeah, you know. Teresa's here. Brenda. Hello, Brenda. Charles.
Right. We got
Peter. Bill. Terry. Blair. Yeah, I like seeing all those guitars behind me. You know, really, they're here because I do use them. They're not props. I mean, I'm using them. This is my engineering room, and those are the main ones I kind of use, sort of, but there's a bunch more in the other room, and only so many will fit in here, so you'll see them get swapped out every once in a while. But that's not what we're here to talk about. What are we here to talk about? We've got two amazing guests tonight.
Two. The price of two.
For the price of one.
Marvin and Gray, and they're going to join us. I think we just bring them in right now.
Yeah, that's all the hype we're going to give them. Okay, you got it.
Let's just bring him in here, brother.
Hi, guys.
Hi, how you doing?
Good. How you doing?
Good.
So obviously, Gray. Now, Gray, you go by Gray DeLisle or Gray Griffin? Both.
I have been married way too many times, and I kept all the names. So.
So should we just call you Hyphen?
Yeah, just call me single. Yeah, no. Don't call me. In fact, actually, no. I will take your name. I'll take it. For music, I mostly go by Gray DeLisle. So, yeah, I hyphenate for the cartoons. Yeah.
Thank you for joining us, Gray. Now we've got Marvin. It's
Etzioni.
Etzioni.
Very good.
Etzioni.
All right.
Italian from back east, right? Hey, half of my family's from back east. We're actually from Jersey, New York area at the Italian side.
Really?
Yeah. I don't really remember any of that because I was raised mostly in Tucson and then moved to California in 1993. But
fine year.
Yeah. What's that?
It was a good year, 93.
It was a good year.
I remember it.
Yeah. I remember that year.
It was so good I don't remember it.
Yeah.
So let's talk about why you guys are here tonight. Obviously, we got to give a shout out to Maureen for making this happen.
Yay!
Thank you very much.
Hey, Maureen!
Hey, Mo.
We appreciate you dearly. So, Gray, let's go back a little bit. And
okay.
So pre-show, Marvin and I were talking a little bit about when you come into finding your voice and who you are and all those things. Let's take you back because obviously you played a Daphne from Scooby-Doo, many Simpsons. You've been on Loud House, Danny Phantom. You've done Catwoman.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Wonder Woman. Yeah, they haven't replaced me as Catwoman yet. That's been going for 10 years. And yeah, let me out. You're very bad kitties, I can tell. Oh, my goodness.
I just blushed.
Yes, but while she's sweet talking you, she's stole your wallet. So be careful.
So typical marriage then is what
I know.
Now, my daughter was all excited because of the Loud House. She was like, she does the Loud House.
Yes, I play Lola on the Loud House. She's a beauty queen, and I play Lana, her sister, who's just kind of like fixes stuff and loves animals and cars, and I also play Scoots, this little old lady named Scoots who's always on a scooter, and I play Mrs. Bernardo, the acting teacher, who's very dramatic, and I play Cheryl, who works in the office. She's just a nice lady who works in there and helping the principal Huggins. So fun. When I play the baby Lily too. A low budget show. They use me for all the voices.
It works, right?
All right, so I think we've got to hear Daphne.
Yeah.
Well, jeepers, I'm wearing Daphne's favorite color today, and in quarantine, I've just been going around the same creepy old mansion looking for ghosts, but it's just getting a little boring. I'm ready to get out exploring in that van again.
What really happens in the van?
It stays in the van. It stays in the van, Drake.
I get it. That's all I'm going to ask. All right. So when did you discover you had so many voices going on and so much talent as far as being able to do this?
Oh my goodness, my grandmother was a singer, but who was a fresh, out of work singer. She used to sing with Tito Puente, but when she wasn't singing, she was doing this crappy factory job while she was raising me. So she needed a way to entertain me. So when I was little, she bought me a boom box, and I would record myself on cassettes and just do little shows because I was an only child. And then once I got of school age, she put me in plays so that she could work until 6:30 or so. And it was like free babysitting. I had a friend who was also in the play, so her mom would drive us to the musical or whatever. I was doing college theater when I was 7 or 8. I played Gloria and Wait Until Dark, Wait Until Dark, that movie with Audrey Hepburn. It was a stage play, but I was like the only kid, and there was all these adults. I was always the only kid around a lot of adults. So yeah, I got into theater really young. And so theater is a good place to start if you really want to do voiceovers, because you can play the little old witch or or there's a little girl or
like the teenage boy or whatever. Like, dude, you can just like ride around your skateboard or whatever.
I mean, you can be anything. It's not like on camera where you have to look like, I have to look like a 40-something woman. I have to, it can be anything.
Right. That is so cool. So we've already got questions pouring in. Does Gray have a favorite character? Blair Abernathy wants to know.
My favorite character is Azula from Avatar: The Last Airbender. She's very, very evil, and a lot of the other actors who auditioned, they said they yelled at everybody, but Azula's so powerful that she doesn't need to yell. She can say everything just like this and be extra, extra creepy and scary. I banished a lot of people on that show. It's so funny because that's got a lot of it's got like sort of a cult following, that show, and a lot of people who aren't even really that into cartoons love that show. I was sitting, when I got upgraded to first class once, and how when you're with the first class people, they know you're not the first class. They know that you're in there because you upgraded or some stars aligned and they let you in. But he was definitely somebody who normally flies first class, this guy sitting next to me. And he didn't talk to me through the whole flight, which I was fine with, even though I stayed awake because I didn't want to miss a cookie or some kind of food. Like, he was sleeping. I thought anybody who's sleeping in first class is definitely rich, because I was just like, I don't want to miss whatever. Give me a hot towel. I just wanted everything. Anyway, but when we were about to land and he decided to finally talk to me, and he's like, oh, so what do you do? And I was like, oh, I do cartoons. And he was like, oh, I don't really watch cartoons. And then I was like, oh, what do you do? And he was like a hedge fund manager or something. I don't really know. But anyway, but then he's like, yeah, well, what cartoons? And I was like, oh, I don't know. I named a few. And he's like, no, I don't watch it. And I said, an Azula on Avatar: The Last Airbender. And he turned into like a 15-year-old kid. He was like, what? Oh my God, I love that show. My kids and I watch that show. And it's so cute. He wanted to take a selfie and everything. So Azula brings out that show is.
Couldn't have slept the whole way.
Yes. I ate all his cookies and used all his hot towels.
Good.
Yeah,
Absolutely. So, Marvin.
Hello.
how did you come across this beautiful woman? And let's talk about you. Let's go back. Robbie, I'm going to let you grab a rail here and ride it on out, brother.
Yeah, because I do want to hear about Prudence Goodbody.
Yeah, Prudence Goodbody. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, well, I'll answer first questions first. So, to answer Drake, then we'll get to Prudence. So, Gray called me about 20 years ago and said, "Hi, you Marvin?" I said, "Yeah." She said, "Do you play mandolin?" I said, "Yeah." She said, "Would you come by and play on a song for me? I'm going in the studio, whatever, tomorrow." I said, "Okay, I'll come by." So I brought a bunch of mandolins. I never know which one might want to use.
Right.
And I said, "Well, do you mind if I listen to something?" And I remember, sitting in the studio having a cup of tea, and I heard her sing. I'm going, wow. It's like, well, wouldn't you want to be on a label and make records? She goes, I said, what do you plan to do with this recording? This is really great.
I was at a voiceover studio. They were letting
Right.
me use their studio for free because I was doing Clifford the Big Red Dog there with John Ritter. I was Emily Elizabeth. Anyway, so that's what.
Right. So I'm listening to this, just an acoustic guitar and a voice, and she wanted mandolin on a very acoustic, stripped down recording. And I said, well, what are you planning to do with this? And she goes, oh, I'm going to make a copy for my grandmother. I said, make a copy for grandmother? So anyway, I played on one song, and I'm getting ready to leave. And she said, will you play on another one? I said, sure. And then this lasted an entire record's worth. And then we stayed in touch. And I said, well, why don't we do an album where we bring a band? And, and we did. And then by the time we got to the, I would say the band record, the produced album, she had met Murray Hammond. He came in on a song. And then it ended up having a top 10 AAA hit. And then that record led her to sign with Sugar Hill Vanguard. The funny story about that, when we finished the record, we went out for coffee one day, and I said, Gray, on a piece of paper, write down what your favorite label would be. Well, what label would you like to be on? And I said, but don't show it to me. And she wrote it down. And then I called her up one day, and I had gotten a call from the one of the heads of Sugar Hill Vanguard, and they were interested in having us come in. They just heard her album, The Homewrecker. And I said, by the way, what's that label you wanted to, I didn't tell her yet. And I said, what's that label what's your favorite label? And she said, well, the label Dolly Parton's on, Sugar Hill Vanguard. I said, well, that's the label we're going to go see. It's a true story. And we went to Santa Monica, and they said, let's make a record. And it was like, rather than putting out home records, she said, well, I've got another batch of songs. Let's go record that and make a record. It's like, okay. So we did 2 records for them, and we did some touring in the Netherlands and played a lot of clubs in LA. And then we cut an album a few years ago, and she just wanted to make videos, so we made a bunch of videos. And then during COVID, when the world was down, I thought, well, this is a perfect time to start a label. So by the end of last year, we started putting out records, digital format, because all the record stores are closed. And I called Gray. I said, I'm starting a label. I have a distribution deal with 6 Degrees. Would you like to work together again? She go, oh my God, that would be great. So here we are. And it's going better than ever. It's really exciting.
I had 3 children in the interim.
Yeah.
And
I thought I'd let you share that part.
Yeah, and I hadn't written a song in 15 years until COVID hit. And then I finally was home all the time because I do stand-up comedy, and I tour around doing autographs at comic book conventions and all. I was always so busy. I never had any stillness to do anything. And I wrote 15 songs in about 3 months. And I told Marvin, I said, I have not written a song in 15 years. And I just have written about 15 songs, only 1 terrible one, 14 good ones, 1 terrible. And so he said, well, let's make another record. So we're putting out some covers that I did when I was doing those videos. We're doing that as it's going to be a album of covers called Borrowed. And it's not just famous covers. It's covers of songwriters who I really admire, who I'm personal friends with, and then other songs that I just love. But now I've got 15 brand new songs. So we're doing another brand new record at the end of the year called Girl Without a Suitcase. And so those are all originals.
Really exciting.
So,
really fun.
yeah. But Marvin, the first thing you said to me when we first met I hired you to play mandolin. Then I was like, would you produce this record? It was pretty much already recorded, but you said you brought in a few people and you like helped me arrange the song. It was very as much as you could do after the fact. But I remember I played you said, well, let me hear a song. So I played a song for you, and then I said, well, you were really quiet, and I was like, oh God, of course. Like the stand-up comic was like, oh my God, I'm bombing here. But I said, what do you think? And you like kind of had your head down and you looked up and you said, I think you're going to get a record deal. But I just really was going to just make that CD for my grandma. That's really all I wanted to do. So.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's incredible. That's absolutely incredible.
It's there's certain times you meet people in the day is like a crystallized moment in time. There's like a before and after,
Right.
and it's like I'll never forget that day I met Gray, and and even though she had all this time, she lived life, had kids, and all of this stuff in her life, and all of a sudden it was just the right timing for us to reconnect last year, and now it's like full steam ahead. We're like talking every day and recording,
Yes.
and, working.
Like
on
the old days.
Yeah, right. Yeah, it's really exciting. It's like
And
go ahead.
Well, I was just saying it's even better making I mean, it's not ideal because I do wish you were in the room, but we put him on speakerphone. We go through the song and figure out what we're gonna do, what's gonna be chorus, what the structure of the song, what we want on, and then I record it here with Murray because he's the father of my oldest son, so he's in our pod. He was the guy that was helping with he's an amazing. If you know the band, the Old 97s, he's in that band. He's wonderful. Oh yeah, Texas guy knows Old 97s. Yeah,
absolutely.
But he's like still one of my dearest friends, and so yeah, he's the one who helped me with this. But we record right here in the living room. There's a whole studio. I wonder if I could turn this so you can see this entire. Can you see over there?
Oh yeah, nice.
There's an entire studio in the living room. So that's where we've been recording we have a 4-track machine, and we've been recording everything on 4-track. And
That's cool.
can you guys still hear me? Okay.
Oh yeah,
Yep.
you're good.
But yeah, but what's great is we're bringing in like musicians we probably couldn't have even gotten because most of them are usually on tour, and we got Mickey Raphael to play on our version of Georgia, which and he's just so talented, and like we've gotten Phil Jones, like we've gotten all these amazing, huge, really successful musicians who are just going stir crazy right now.
What's interesting about, you may or may not know, Mickey Raphael may not be a household name, but when Gray wanted to record George on My Mind, and she sent me her version of it. Well, I love the Ray Charles version, but my favorite version is the Willie Nelson version on the Stardust album, which is one of my all-time favorite albums.
Great album.
I knew Mickey Raphael, and he was the harmonica player who played on the original Willie Nelson record, and he's still playing with him. A few years ago, I got to work with Mickey on a record in Nashville, and I called him up. And 2 days later, he goes, Marvin there? Yeah. He goes, Mickey. I said, Mickey who? He goes, Marvin, it's Mickey. You called me. Oh, yeah, right. I couldn't believe he was calling me, And I sent him the song. And then he calls me back. He goes, I love this. I would love to play on it. And he did a great job. And he goes, great, DeLisle. He goes, oh, I have that record she did on Sugar Hill Vanguard.
Really?
Yeah, he had it.
So
And he goes, he
crazy.
says, I'm a big fan of hers. There's an album called Graceful Ghost, beautiful album she did. And, so all of a sudden he's like all of a sudden part of the family again. So it was really great reconnecting with him. So now we sent the track out to our friend Eric Gorfrain, who's a great string arranger. So he's working on a string arrangement for it. And so we'll see what it comes up with. We'll find out next couple of weeks. And so that'll be on the covers album, Borrowed. And then now we're working on the original songs. And so it's just nonstop. So Gray's right, but I just wanted to show when she said Mickey, not everybody knows him, but everyone's heard him.
They
He's
should.
the guy, he's the harmonica sound of Willie Nelson. I mean, it's very distinctive. Arguably one of the most distinctive harmonica players ever recorded, because he really kind of invented a sound with Willie Nelson that no one really has done that before.
Mm-hmm.
I
Right.
So you would think things would be more limited with COVID, but and they are to a certain degree, but even just the fact that I'm able to do this show, usually, I mean, I have gotten interview requests before, but being a single mom and just, I've got a lot going on. I can't like go fly somewhere or go meet with people or, and this way, it almost brings up more opportunities, in a lot of different ways too. So.
Yeah.
Right. Absolutely. So we've got a lot of questions coming in from the audience, but I need to say a special shout out to James Hyde, the star of the show Monarchos, in the audience tonight.
Hey, Monarcho's second season was great too, James, by the way.
Absolutely.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Wow.
James is a good friend and a friend of the show, so welcome, and we love you, brother. So
Hi,
Blair,
James.
Blair wants to know, Gray, with all of the talking that you have to do, how do you keep your voice in shape?
I've been on panels with voice actors who I know don't do any voice training or any. They say that they do, like, oh, I do all these vocal warm-ups and I don't drink any, I don't drink milk or whatever. I'm thinking, what? Yes, you do. You're full of it. And so, I don't do anything to keep my voice. I guess I'm just blessed with one of those voices that's pretty sturdy. Like I can't say what the project is, but there's a reboot of an 80s property that's going to be huge, and I play a creature in it, and I like all these noises all day, and then I go and then I record country music at night, and it doesn't seem to affect my voice at all. But I do know people who are very like, oh God, I need these lozenges. I got this spray, and I guess I don't know, got lucky, but so I don't really have any tricks.
Right.
I drink lattes. I've got a little latte here,
There you go. So you don't do the oats or honeys or anything like that, huh? You're very...
Yeah, sometimes if I do have a little bit too much vocal stress, the thing is, because I'm a theater actor, I learned how to breathe in theater school, which really protects your pipes. The only time I ever lost my voice was I saw a horror movie. It's called What Lies Beneath, ages ago, probably 20 years ago, Harrison Ford and Michelle Pfeiffer. Because I was so actually terrified, and I kept screaming, but because it was such a visceral thing, I didn't protect my voice because it was just coming out. And I thought, oh my God, I lost my voice. But it's when I know when I'm going to make a noise, then my body knows like how to protect itself. But it's because it was coming at me from, and I thought, I just can't see horror movies anymore. So I haven't seen any kind of horror shows, anything that people love or watch, or like, have you seen, Saw 2? And I'm like, nope, I don't see those because I can't. I'll lose my voice and I won't be able to work.
Right on. So we got a question for Marvin here. Marvin, Brenda
Hello.
wants to know, or says, mandolin is such a beautiful sound. Were you always drawn to that because it's so unique?
Yeah, we were talking earlier, Drake, before the show started, and the mandolin was my first instrument. My grandfather gave it to me. He had a mandolin, and I just loved it. It was tiny. I was a little boy, and I just taught myself how to play, and then eventually in junior high, I started writing songs on it, and then I got into other instruments. So the mandolin family, for those who are interested in the mandolin family, it's paralleled with the string instruments in the orchestra. So the mandolin is tuned like a violin, the mandola is tuned like a viola, and the mandocello is tuned like a cello. So that's why there is such a thing. In the early part of the 1900s, there were mandolin orchestras playing classical pieces because the instruments are tuned the same.
Oh,
Right.
I hope
Now
that
we're
answers
learning
our
things.
friend's question. Yes.
Love it.
That's very. So I've got a question for Maureen. She says that Drake is very brutish, or hello, Drake's brutish.
Brutish.
And what's the question?
How am I brutish, Maureen?
Answer.
Right.
Okay.
All right. So we've got a couple more here.
Yeah.
We've got. All right. Do you when you do voice work, what is the audition process like? Is it straight on with a producer? Are you sending in a video? Are you sending in a demo?
Well, I have a demo tape that's available online at my agency if they want to click on me, or if my agent recommends me for something, she'll say, here's her demo with all the different stuff I've done. But mostly they send you a really great drawing of a really great character. And
so maybe it's got teeth like this or something, you know?
And then they'll sometimes if you're there live and auditioning, they'll say, like maybe I'm doing a voice like that, and then they'll say, can you make it a little bit heavier? It's a chubbier. So then you kind of put a little bit more kind of girth on it, just a little bit more weight to it, and then you just gotta, I don't know. The picture is big. The picture means a lot. It just says 1,000 words.
Absolutely.
So, and then right now I just record myself on my computer, which I didn't even have a computer when this whole thing started. And I really thought, how long is this going to last? 30 days? I'm going to buy a cheap computer, work if I can. So I bought the cheapest computer I could find on Amazon. It's like $400 or something. And of course I want to do Zoom on. I'm using Murray's computer right now because my computer is so awful. Even though I use it all day long, I can't. I saw all these cute backgrounds on Zoom and I was like, I'm going to do that. And then my computer was like, no, you're not, because this is a 2012 computer. So anyway, but it's working.
That is awesome. So yeah, I deal with it. I've got like 6 computers sitting around here that I have. So.
I'm going to donate mine at the end of this. I don't want to have anything to do with it. I hate computers, but you got to do what you got to do.
At the end of COVID, I'd definitely get rid of all.
Yes.
So Marvin.
Yeah. Hello.
Brother, you've been around music, and when I say you've been around music, I mean you've been around some of the bigs in music. Not saying that Gray is not, but let's talk about.
Hey. No. No, I'm a big fan of Marvin's. I was a fan of Lone Justice when I first met him, so I was all impressed and starstruck. So go for it.
All right. So Marvin, Tom Petty, Bob Dylan, Peter Case, Counting Crows, Cheap Trick.
Guilty as charged, Your Honor.
I mean, just those alone, we just dropped a bomb in the middle of the living room.
So yeah, Bob Dylan, we got to record with him. He wrote a song for Lone Justice, and we recorded with him at the power station. And they told me about it the day before, but it really didn't sink in. They go, tomorrow we're recording with Bob Dylan. What? And the way he records, it was one of those days that I'll never forget, because he walks in, and it was Don Heffington on drums, Ben Montench from Petty's band on piano and organ, and then Bob is playing electric guitar. And then in walks Ron Wood from the Stones, Faces, playing a lead guitar. Seriously? And I'm standing right, and I'm playing bass. So if anybody plays bass a little bit, Murray will relate to this. If you're playing guitar, you'll know what I'm talking about. You just kind of hit a chord, you lay back, you check what's going on. You're playing bass. If you miss a beat, the whole thing caves in. The whole right. So Dylan sets up. We're all ready to go. You don't talk. You don't rehearse. You push record. And the first take, I'm literally I'm 5 feet away from him, staring at his fingers, because I want to see what chord he's playing, because I haven't heard the song before.
Oh, shit.
And the whole band gets a great take that way. And then you do it a couple more times that way. And Ron Wood is looking at me with a cigarette, the way that you think Ron Wood would look. And he's like, I don't know what I'm playing, and it was very memorable, so there's just certain moments. That's just a particular way of making records, whereas somebody else, it'll be a different approach in making records. But he just goes for it. It's like rehearsals, you don't get the key, you don't get what the song's about. Hey, let me play it for you. Why don't we talk? Nothing. And you're really kind of like, to me, that's like the highest bar, is when you're in that kind of high wire. You're definitely on the tightrope, because there ain't no net below you at all when you're working that way, because you're going straight to tape. So I really enjoyed that experience. That's just one of the folks that you mentioned. Yeah.
Wow.
That's pretty cool. And it's interesting you say about the bass, because it's kind of like underappreciated in the way that if you're doing a good job, it's kind of like, okay, but as soon as you fall off, then they notice you.
Well, my favorite bass players are the one that you don't really know what's going on. You know what I mean? You shouldn't hear them. You should feel them. They're part of the experience, Yeah. In fact, when I worked with Lone Justice, I would just producing them and writing and co-writing songs with them, developing the band and turning it into working with them for live performances. And then their bass player left, and the roadie bought me a bass for $75, came in and go, you know all the songs, learn the bass. And I was like, and here's the funny thing. It's 1983, and we had auditioned bass players. But at that time, it wasn't like now. You go on the internet and you can find people. It's real easy to do. But back then, I would go to the guitar store. Go, hi, you play bass? Oh, yeah. Well, great. Our band's looking for a bass player. What are you guys into? Well, we're kind of into Creedence Clearwater and The Clash. Well, who's Creedence Clearwater? I'd walk out of the store. Well, the guy John Fogerty, never heard of him. Well, I'm into Metallica. Well, you're not the right guy.
No.
So we were looking for something that it hadn't been fully developed yet in our culture, and we couldn't find anybody. So they bought me the bass, and I would we went on tour with Rank and File, and every night I'd sit in the hotel room, learn the bass parts from the rehearsals from the other bass player, because I'd have to know the songs we're about to play tonight. So that was how I learned bass. I didn't play bass before. I didn't really care about bass one way or the other. I liked the instrument, but I never owned one. So now I can play bass a bit.
You played for me before.
You did play drums, so
yeah, I can play drums. Yeah, there's a connection to it. Yeah. And when I used to play in the rehearsal with Justice, I used to sit with my back leaning against Heffington's kick drum, because a lot of my bass parts were boom, 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 boom. Like punk rock country bass part, boom, boom, and the kick drum would just go bang right in my back, and it would be in time with my bass, and that's where I wanted the pocket to be, and it was very visceral. It was like my back was part of the bass drum, and I loved doing that in rehearsals. It was great.
I love that story. Yeah. I've known him for 20 years. I've never heard this story.
No. Well, Drake gets the best out of me,
I talk a lot too. There's no
want to know about Prudence. We can go into the other stuff, but let's hear a little bit about Prudence Goodbody, just because it's always interesting to hear people.
It's iconic. Well, we've never made a record, but in high school, and then we'll let Gray talk, because I know everyone watching here wants to hear Gray. And so, but in high school, I was the drummer. Here's a quick story. So in 9th grade, in junior high, I wanted to be president of the United States. I was thinking about that. So then I became president of my junior high, right?
Right.
And then one day there was something called the sock hop, which was this dance, after school. Well, when you're president of a junior high, they let you kind of do stuff the other kids don't get to do. So I took off class, and I'd go see, like, how are they setting up for the dance? It's like as if it matters, right? It didn't matter, but okay, great. I'll skip class and just pretend that I'm doing something. But the band, Prudence Goodbody, was playing, and I was listening to them, and they were playing, Neil Young or, whatever. And so I'm going, wow, these guys are good, but the drummer sucks. This guy's terrible. He couldn't keep a beat, So the drummer takes a break, and I go up to the guys, and I go, hey, you mind if I join you while your drummer's away? And they look at me, they go, they gave me this look like, you are the most uncool person I've ever seen in my life. You're the president of the school. And these guys had long hair down to their bellies, And they go, yeah, sure. Like they're giving me the big break to play with them. And I sit behind the drum set, and they play, like Going Up the Country or Down by the River or something. And I'm keeping a beat. And they're turning around and go, wow, we sound pretty good now. And so the drummer, between 9th and 10th grade, there's this valley of time, right? You're about to go to high school. Well, the two guitar players, they were going to Fairfax. The drummer went to a different school, and I was going to Fairfax. So the three of us would rehearse over the summer. And then 10th grade, we kind of kept the band going, and I drum. And now back then, it's not like it is now where you can play. I'm not talking COVID. I'm talking pre-COVID. If you're in
Right.
high school or you're in college right now, there's plenty of places to play. I mean, tons of places all around the country. In LA, if you wrote your own songs, there was no place to play. We would go to mental hospitals. We'd go to military bases. We'd play to people who were sitting in wheelchairs dancing like this to us. We'd go to libraries. We'd set up in a library with big amplifiers, and I'm bashing on the drums. And I'd say, hey, play that riff you played yesterday. And I'm making up songs on the spot. We'd play anywhere. There was no place for, because you got to understand, in LA at that time, the Whiskey A Go-Go didn't have local bands like they do, So who did I see at the Whiskey? I saw Iggy and the Stooges. I saw the Raw Power tour. You want to hear a good guitar player, Robbie? Check out James Williamson on Raw Power. I saw the New York Dolls' first show at the Whiskey. So you didn't even think that you could play there. At the Troubadour, down the block on Santa Monica Boulevard in high school, I saw Sandy Denny with Fairport Convention. I saw Randy Newman. I saw Joni Mitchell play solo. You didn't think about playing this. So we would play anywhere. So that was me playing drums, and then we got a drummer, and then after high school, we kind of went our separate ways, But Prudence Goodbody, we reformed a few years ago when we made an album, and I want to turn it into a concept album for a film. It's a whole other thing called Kid Confused, which is the opening track. So that was a song I wrote in high school, and kind of sets off the tone for the album. But it's kind of Stonesy. I can only do like a Charlie Watts early Ringo groove. That's my thing.
Right.
But I love drums. Gray knows this. It's like drums to me is like the center of the universe. I just love drums, and I can talk with to a drummer for hours.
Or not talk to one for hours, because we've gone to see we've gone to see shows where I'm in love with the band, but Marvin's like the band, I can't get past the drummer. The songwriting is great, and the guitar player great. The drums, I got to get out of here. I can't be in here.
I remember.
They'll remain nameless.
Right. I one time went to see a band with a friend of mine who's a drummer, and he goes, "Hey man, these guys are good." I go, I promise you, you're going to end up drumming on their record. He goes, man, that guy sounds great. Within the year, he ended up replacing that drummer on their record. He called me up because I'm on their record.
I love it.
Yeah.
That's
I'll tell you another story. Geffen Records sent me to see the Counting Crows. I was up for producing the first Counting Crows record. So they said, I heard their demo, and they sent me to Sacramento to see the Counting Crows open for Bob Dylan. So They said, we want you to take notes. Tell us what you think. And I went backstage. Who's backstage? T-Bone Burnett. Well, T-Bone Burnett ended up producing the record.
Right.
So T-Bone wasn't supposed to be there. So T-Bone comes up to me, and he knows that I was up for the record, and he goes, hey, Marvin, how you doing? I go, pretty good, T-Bone. He goes, you want to play on the new Sam Phillips record? I said, sure, T-Bone. So I ended up playing mandolin on her, electric mandolin, and ended up being backwards electric mandolin on her album. But I called Geffen when I got home the next day. They go, what'd you think? And I said, get rid of the drummer.
And did they?
They didn't do it because of me, but I knew he wasn't going to make the record. And by the time they did the first album, they got a new drummer. I think it was the same drummer who played on the first Tracy Chapman album with Fast Cars. If you listen to both albums back to back, you'll notice a similarity. And then on the second album, I'll share a quick story. Adam Duritz, by this time, had already gone multi-platinum on the first album, called me up. He said, I want you to produce a couple of songs. We're doing a soundtrack. And I said, great. So he sends me a cassette, and I call him back. I said, I love the first song, but the second song on the tape, I don't hear your soul in it. And I'm thinking, and there's silence on the phone, and I'm thinking, oh man, I totally blew it. Why did I tell him that? But if anybody knows me, I'm really straight ahead. I'm not a game player. you know.
Right.
And so, and he stops. It's silence on the phone. He goes, "You know that song you said that you didn't hear my soul in it?" I said, "Yeah, the first song I totally felt it. I love it. It's the second song I didn't hear your soul in it. I don't believe it." He goes, "I didn't write that song. I want to record the first song with you." I said, "Okay." So one thing led to another, and that became Miller's Angels, and it was over 6 minutes long, and they were going to put it in the film, but Adam didn't want to edit the song. He wanted the movie to revolve around the film, his 7-minute song, and so it never got in the movie. So that would have been very unusual for a film to have a 7-minute song. You know?
Absolutely.
I have a Counting Crows song. It's really quick. Yeah. My dad worked at this office building property management firm, and next door there was a big warehouse where they did recording. And one day there was just a bunch of noise coming from over there. So my dad went over there and said, "Hey guys, we have a thing in our contract. You can't be recording and making all kinds of noise during office hours. You have to wait till after 8 o'clock." And they said, "We're counting crows." And my dad goes, "I don't care what you're counting. You can do it after."
I love it.
That's a totally true story.
That's perfect.
Maybe he should have produced the first album. I don't know.
Right. So some more questions coming in, and
all right, keep them coming.
I'm almost nervous to ask this one. What would Drake's character sound like?
I love it.
Oh my goodness.
Well, it'd be real low like this. I don't know. I'm trying to get to your timbre. I can't quite do it.
Sounds like John Wayne a little bit.
You're right, it did.
Right? I was hoping it wasn't going to sound like Larry the Cable Guy or something.
Much more polished.
Right? So Brenda wants to know how many people are actually inside that amazing mind of yours, Gray?
Mine? Oh, gosh. It's so funny because I feel like I've run out of people. Like now, sometimes I don't even know what I really sound like anymore. I'll get a part, and sometimes they'll go, "You know what, Gray? We just want you to kind of just do your regular voice." And I'm like, "What is that?" I'm like, "Oh, do you want something a little bit more like, just sort of?" And they're like, "Well, no, just like how you regular." And I'm like, "Okay, wait, how do I regularly sound?" I really don't know. There's too many people. No vacancy.
Hey, James Hyde said, "Cable Guy, careful, buddy, careful."
Yeah,
I can understand that because when I get off the radio, I'm sure it's just like you. I can't get myself out of radio voice.
Well, you know how when I hear terrible voiceover, it just kills me inside. Probably at like when Marvin hears bad drums, but sometimes I'm just like, wow, how awful. You couldn't come up with a few $100s to get a union person to do that or something. I don't know. There's just so many just bad. My kids, I will not let them watch. I don't let them watch a lot of television anyway, but sometimes they try to put a show on where the kids sound like this. And I'm just like, nope. I don't know who's doing that, but it's terrible. And I don't want you even hearing bad. Just, a lot of these YouTube people who like do unboxings or just, and they're like, "Oh, what are we going to do? I've got to go over here. Oh, what's that monster?" And I'm like, "Oh, I can hear bad voiceover going on. Where is it coming from?" Like just kill it. Anyway, so.
Right.
That's funny.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the album that you've got out. Where can people find this at, Gray?
Well, the single is going to be released on what date, Marvin?
I think February 5, Valentine, written by Murray Hammond, who's in the other room. And it'll be available on your favorite digital platform, and the video is getting released on the same day. And the album, we don't have a release date for the album yet. But
I was saying, you're a good songwriter when your ex-wife covers your song without you even asking to, I asked him, I was like, "Please let me do this song. I love it. It's one of my favorites." So
yeah.
Wow. So James wants to know, Gray, if you know Tara Strong E.G. Daly.
Tara is one of my dearest friends, and so is E.G. I don't see E.G. or talk to E.G. quite as much, but I play Wonder Woman on DC Superhero Girls, and Tara plays Harley Quinn, and that's a bad impression of Tara, but Tara does Harley Quinn and Poison Ivy, and we were also on Unikitty together. She was Unikitty, and I was Puppycorn. And then we used to see each other all the time. We still Zoom sometimes. She's doing a TV show in Canada now. She's doing on-camera work. So she's so pretty. She shouldn't waste herself on just voices. And E.G., I adore her, and I wish I saw her more, but I haven't seen her in quite some time. Yeah.
Wow. Question for Marvin here. Maureen and the crew wants to know, what was the most surprising thing about Dylan?
I'll tell you a quick funny story. So years later, maybe 8 or 10 years later, I was rehearsing in a rehearsal room, and Bob Dylan's rehearsing in the other room, and there's a kitchen where you can go and get coffee or tea or something or Coke, and it's just Bob Dylan and I, and we're just talking, and I don't know if you remember me. I used to be in Lone Shells. Before I could say anything, like, he remembered everything. I mean, he was like super, super, kind of like extra sensory, smart. And we just talked for a while, and it was great. And I said, great. It was really nice to talk to you. It was just him and I. No one bothered us. No one came in. And then the next day came back to a rehearsal, and I walk into the rehearsal door, and this guy comes up to me. He goes, "Are you Marvin?" I said, "Yeah." He goes, "Bob wants to talk to you." And I said, "Bob who?" And he said, Bob Dylan wants to talk to you. And I completely forgot what had happened the day before.
Oh, and, Bobby.
All right, so I go into the kitchen again, and he's standing there. We're talking, and so I introduced him now to a couple of my friends. And I said, this is my friend Bob Dylan. I said, "You don't mind if I call you my friend, do you?" And he looks at me, goes, "I better be your friend."
I love it. That's great.
Yeah.
Bob who? I remember one time I worked with Stan Lee for the first time. Stan Lee.
Of course.
And so I said, "Who else is here?" Because I thought I was only recording by myself. And they said, "Oh, Stanley's here." And I was like, "Stanley? Who's Stanley?" I was like, he's like some guy who's just going by his first name. Who's that? And then I walked in and I was like, "Oh, Stan Lee. Oh my God." Yeah.
So what was that like?
Oh, he was adorable. I loved him. He always wanted, he was getting older, so he was having a little trouble hearing. So he always said, and I would always, like, if he said something and I could tell he didn't really hear what they said, I would tell him what it was he needed to know. But so he always was like, "Honey, sit by me. And I always knew, I was like, if people were like, "Great, he's flirting with you," I was like, "No, he just knows that I tell him what he needs to hear." But he wore these really great cashmere sweaters all the time, and I would always pet his. I was like, "Here he is! I'm going to pet his little sweater," because he had the most amazing cashmere every day. Good, great, wonderful person.
What an iconic man! Absolutely,
yes.
Absolutely. So traveling around to the Comic-Cons and stuff like that, is that something you enjoy doing? Because I'm sure you've got to get tired doing all of these voices and all of the effort.
Well, being a single mother of 3 children, it's actually a vacation for me. I miss doing those because I would get to sleep. I would get to sleep in a nice hotel until they would go, "Is 11 o'clock too early to come get you?" And I'm like, "No, that's fine. I haven't slept until 9 in years." But so about one weekend a month, I would get I'd order room service and wear the fluffy robe, and it was great. I loved it. And but yeah, I miss them. But I did, you are doing voices all day, and you want to give everybody your energy because they're in line for a long time and they only get a few minutes to have their experience. And I just want to make sure their experience is everything they've waited for. And so it is a little draining. A lot of people go out to dinner afterward. They'll go, "Hey, Gray, we're meeting at this steakhouse. Do you want to come meet us?" And I'm just like, all I want to do, because I was like, "Oh, I'm just going to go eat something by myself or order something in my room." And they're like, "Oh, you don't want that? Don't do that, Gray. You don't want to be by yourself." And I was thinking, yeah, all I want is to be by myself right now. I need to recharge, but
right.
Yeah, but sometimes there were amazing dinners where you're like, because it would get just such a strange group of people together, just such odd, but you'd be at a dinner with Weird Al and Eddie Munster and one of the Oompa Loompas and the cast of, Back to the Future. And I mean, it's just like, what is this? This is so crazy. Or you'll be talking to somebody and I'm like, who is that guy? I know that guy, but I don't recognize him. I can't, I Google his name and I'm like, oh my God, it's the Night King from Game of Thrones.
Oh,
But you
wow.
can't, but you wouldn't know because he's not wearing all that makeup, but there's some kind of essence that you recognize, but you can't put your finger on it. So yeah, no, I do love doing those. I miss him. I can't wait to get back. But right now I've been every Saturday, I do little conventions from my garage. Jess Harnell is one of my dearest friends. I love him very much. He's a great musician, rock sugar. Anyway, sorry, I saw somebody ask a question.
Yeah, absolutely.
No, I love Jess. We just did a Queen thing together, online. We did anyway. Yeah, I don't know. Oh yeah, I do conventions in my garage every Saturday. I do meet and greets with fans where it's just like a few minutes, and we talk on Zoom and they pay the company and the company takes their little cut and I get a little check and help me pay my mortgage. But a really embarrassing thing happened a couple weeks ago. We live right next door to a public park. And since I don't have a babysitter, I put some toys, right outside the studio door for the kids and I keep the door open and I'm right around the corner, talking on the computer. And I heard a mom, because my daughter's only 4. So this lady could see my daughter just playing by herself, even though I was a few feet away. But she said, honey, where's your mommy? And she goes, she's in the garage talking to strangers for money on the computer.
Oh my God. Wow.
So, yeah.
Wow.
Ouch.
Yeah. Oh boy. Only fans.
Right. So,
Wow.
Marvin, you and Robbie have kind of a connection here with Tom Petty. Let's talk about Tom Petty.
Okay.
How's that?
What's your connection with
I don't know
Petty?
what he's talking about with me. I don't have a connection with Tom Petty.
Oh,
I don't
okay.
know. Well, maybe production's wrong.
Right. So
Yeah.
so Petty, in '85, Lone Justice opened up a tour for Petty when he was on an album called Southern Accents, which is really a great album. In fact, Southern Accents might be my favorite Tom Petty song. It's a kind of an overlooked album, but I had heard originally it was supposed to be a double album, but it's a single disc. So the Petty connection, I didn't co-write with Petty. He ended up writing a song that was on the first Lone Justice album. But doing the tour with them, they were all great. Tom and the band, everybody was really great to deal with. I only have great things to say about him, and everybody was in the band at that time, and that was with Stan Lynch as well, and Ben Mont. Howie, the bass player, unfortunately passed away. Super nice guy. All really great and talented. I remember one time we were standing on this road waiting to go into one of the big places we were playing. And, Petty walks out of a limo. And we're just kind of standing there like they're waiting for this gate to open. So he gets out of the limo, and we're kind of hanging out, him and I and a couple other people. I said, hey, Tom, what's with the limo? And he goes, Marvin, I'm just trying to piss off the punks. I said, okay. But I like, he's one of my favorite songwriters. And in fact, the day that he passed away, I wrote a song called You Made the World, and actually me and Willie of the Holy Brothers, we recorded it, and it'll be on our next album, or the one we're planning our next 2 albums. It's a trilogy. The
Holy Trinity.
The Holy Trinity, that's right. And I was really shocked when I heard about him. It really had a deep impact on me. I remember taking a walk when I heard he passed away, and on Glendale Avenue, you could pass by stores. In one store, there'd be one Tom Petty song playing, and then another. Every song had a different Petty song playing, and it's really incredible. The power of song. And a friend of mine, Paul Zolo, he's an author, and he's one of the main editors at American Songwriter, and he did an interview book with Petty. And had very interesting. I think it's called Conversations with Tom Petty. So if you're a Petty fan, you might want to pick up this book because it's arguably he's been told it's the definitive book that Tom authorized. Tom was there for all the interviews. This is not a gossip book; it's the real stuff. and they just reissued it a couple of years ago. And in fact, Paul called me, and he said, this is pre-COVID, and he said, I want to meet with you. And I said, yeah, what's going on? He goes, well, now that I'm done with the Petty book, I want to do my next book with you. I said, well, you're very kind. And he's a great interviewer and journalist. And, you know, he's written books about songwriting. So he's interviewed Dylan and Leonard Cohen and Paul Simon, Garfunkel, you know, all these iconic songwriters. So it was very nice. We started the recording process kind of like this, just talking about songwriting and making records. And then COVID hit and we stopped. So we'll see when we pick it up again. But the Petty connection, sometimes I think of Zolo because we spend so much time talking about Petty, and he told me about the process of his book and how he did those interviews. So, and Zolo too is a big fan of Petty. You have to love his work if you're going to interview somebody. You know, sometimes people write about somebody and they don't even seem like they like them. It's like, why are you writing about them? You know, but I like it when writers actually love the subject. But, you know, Petty will be remembered for his songs and his great records, you know.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Question.
I'm just a petty person, so that's my connection.
I got a question for each of you. One would be, is there another Scooby-Doo coming out soon? I watched Scooby with my daughter.
We're always recording Scoobies. Oh, yes.
Oh,
yes. I've been doing it since 1999. No, I guess 2000. Yeah, 2001 maybe. Yeah. Anyway, I got the part, I think, in 99, but it didn't come out until, anyway. So we're always doing new Scoobies. Yep. And we do it with celebrities now. We just finished a whole series called Guess Who Scooby-Doo, which was all with celebrity guests. And then we just did a direct to TV. Well, our Halloween special came out in October, and I got to work with Elvira, and I got to do a Zoom with Elvira, who I'm like a huge fan of, and I love her. It's so funny. We have so much in common too. We're both like, you know, goth, a little bit goth, but we also, both of our sons are artists. We had a ton in common. And I was telling her about when my grandmother died. My grandma was a big gambler, and I just had such a close connection with my grandmother because she raised me and everything. And a lot of the songs I write are about my grandmother. I have on the new record, on the Suitcase record, there's a whole song about my grandmother. But actually two. Anyway. But my grandma loved to gamble. I never cared about gambling that much until grandma died. I feel like I took on her gambling addiction, but it was only a few months after she died, and it was my birthday. And I went to a casino near Palm Springs, and I was like, Grandma, you know, tell me where I should go. Which machine should I play? And I saw Elvira above all. And I was like, Elvira, that's exactly Grandma would love, because we used to watch Elvira all the time together and snuggle up, you know, and it was just our special time. So I went over, put $20 in the Elvira machine, and won $2,000.
Wow.
So it was good. I just like Grandma, and I'm enough of a non-gambler to just like take my money and go right back to my hotel. I was like, okay, well, my work is done here. So I didn't put it back in. So Grandma probably would have put it back in. Yeah,
absolutely.
So there's more Scoobies. The short answer is lots more Scoobies in the can.
Cool.
Yeah,
that's great.
Yeah.
And the other question, you'll be like, what? But between 9th and 10th grade, did you grow your hair out to fit into your band? Marvin?
Wait. Oh, I was like, wait, what? Okay.
I see.
He's like, you're still talking about Prudence?
Well, I'll tell you something. That's a very fair question. So 9th grade, I'm now president of my junior high school, Bancroft Junior High, and we have our first Senate meeting. You know, you have the senators from the 7th, 8th, and 9th grade, and now I'm, so I'm presiding over it. It's our first session. And I said, well, here we are. Who wants to start? This guy raises his hand and he stands up. He goes, I want to start impeachment proceedings against you right now. I said, well, I've only been president for like 2 minutes. Okay. You know, so they didn't like me in Senate, and I didn't like them. So now in 10th grade, I run again for 10th grade senator, because you can't run for high school president until you're in 12th grade. So I run for 10th grade senator. I get to be 10th grade senator, and all the people in Senate, for the most part, I didn't like them. I'm not really. I'm interested in politics, but I'm not interested in politicians. It's not my thing. Is a difference. I liked the long hair freakos who were smoking pot, who were sitting on the quad, bringing their guitars every day, and I thought, that's it. I'm done with politics, and I hung out with my friends, and yeah. So then, I didn't have, I guess I had long hair, but it was every day we would write songs in classroom, like in between breaks and pass lyrics to each other, write songs during the day. That was it. I was just like, that's what I'm going to do, And in fact, the guitar player, when I was in 9th, 10th grade, the guitar player for Prudence, my dear friend Mike, brilliant player. This guy could play blues like nobody's business. He passed away a few years ago, but he was the very first person I met. He came up to me once. He goes, Marvin, you got to do the songwriting thing. He goes, you just know how to do that. And that's what you got to do. And he really was the first person to acknowledge that, because I kind of felt like I was in my own bubble. I didn't, so he brought that out in me and encouraged it. And yeah, so that was really the transition. So it was not only here's the thing about pot. My friend Mike really liked pot when I was in high school. By 12th grade, he said, God damn it, him and this other drummer, this guy was a really good drummer. We called him Mooney. We all went to see The Who play Quadrophenia with Keith Moon together. So one day at high school, 12th grade, Mike and Mooney come up to me and they literally pin me on the grass, on the grass, and I'm on my back. They're holding my arms down. They go, we are going to get you high right now. And they put a joint in my mouth and they wait and they make me try more. And I couldn't get high. Pot never made me high. I'm already there. I said, you don't get it. I'm already like in this other place, and I couldn't get high, from pot. It didn't do anything to me. I'm all for it. Legalize it. Knock yourself out.
Literally.
Exactly. They gave up on me. Okay, we're not going to try anymore. You really are not into this. So that was it.
Oh man.
That's awesome, man. I can't thank you guys enough for joining us tonight.
Thank you,
when are we going live? When is this going to start?
Right.
I thought we're still doing like the pre-show thing with Robbie and Drake, and that's it.
Oh, okay. Thank you guys so much.
Well, we're going to be, I feel like, I don't know about you, Greg, but I really feel like I've met two new friends.
Yes.
And we'll come out to Texas.
They better be friends. They better be our friends.
You better be.
You better be my friend.
That's perfect.
This is
absolutely. I'd love to
Thank
have
you, Robbie,
you guys out
Drake.
Thank you.
Gray, it's always good to see you.
You too. We're going to record now.
Appreciate it.
We're going to record a song right now.
Yeah, so she's going to call me, and I get to hear the recording, the take before. So we've already done the what I call the pre-production, what I call the architecture of the song. You want to make sure not only is the song good, but it's structured in such a way that if you're listening to this and you make records or write songs, listen to how a song is, what the structure is. And I used to do this as a kid. I used to go to restaurants when they had jukeboxes, take a notebook, put in a dime, and I'd write down, okay, intro, verse, chorus, intro. Oh, wait a minute. They go to a solo, and then I'd put a dime, another song. And I'd like analyze them because I want to know, how does this thing work? It was like I made this up, like this thing to do. Let's just say I did this on my own. Like nobody wanted to do this with me, But I'm still doing that now. That's the thing that I look for, that magic thing, that how is this song put together? And if you listen, like I'll give you a quick example, Rob.
The structure of this podcast is that it's over now, Marvin.
Yeah, okay. What do I care about that?
We'll just keep rocking and rolling.
It's not my show.
The outro is starting.
So like on the song, Robbie will like this. So on Can't Buy Me Love, it starts with the chorus, right? Can't Buy Me, right?
Yep.
It didn't, when McCartney wrote that song, it started with the verse. George Martin said, let's start it with the chorus. that was a revolutionary thing to do at that moment.
Right.
So those are the things that I look for in terms of putting a song together. So Gray, is very patient with me. She actually listens, and actually said, well, okay, let's try that. And then when we try, you go, oh my God, I played the song like that. It's better now. I said, well, that's the whole point, and the trick is to structure a song in such a way that when you get to the end of the song, you want to hear it again. And and so every day, it's like I keep like discovering other ways of looking at its songs. And so that's what we did earlier today. We worked on the structure of this new song she has. And so she's going to try. We have 2 options, but I think one of the options will probably be the one. And then she'll play me the take. We'll make comments, and she'll get a master take. And then we'll figure out who to play on it, drums or whatever, pedal steel, maybe get Greg Leese on it. So it's a real exciting process from a distance. It's different, but I really love it.
Yeah, I don't like to co-write in the same room. I'm too much of a people pleaser. Everything somebody says, I'm like, that's great. Oh, I love that. That's awesome. That's what we're going to do. Let's do that. And then I just have no voice. So I said, Marvin, can I sit down, write the song, send it to you. You make changes. You send it back. We figure it out, and sometimes he'll go, and sometimes it's just something of like, let's start with verse 2. It changes the story. And I'm like, oh my God, it's a million times better starting with verse 2, or, it's just that's something you wouldn't think.
I look at it like it's like a theater piece. Right. So when you go see Tom Petty, I saw Tom Petty so many times. We opened up for U2. I saw U2 so many times, and people think that what they're doing is that they're doing it for you, as if they've never done it before. All right. This is not sleight of hand. It's not magic. It's song structure. This is theater. So when you go see a play, you go see a movie. And I was involved in like the post-production for a film. It's like decisions and choices are made on where to edit a film, on where to edit a song. And when people go see it, they're moved by it, but it just doesn't happen. You want the gift to come down, but then you can't wait for inspiration. You gotta meet inspiration. You gotta go to it. And so I think it's a really important thing. For me, it's like I imagine Gray on a stage singing the song. I don't care if there are 2 people in the audience or 10,000. It doesn't matter, because if you structure the song in such a way, the lights know when to appear, and the audience knows how to react to it. It has a theatrical. It doesn't mean, I'm not talking about you turning it into a musical, but the Beatles were theater. Elvis was theater.
Absolute.
Right? You watch those old films of Elvis, it's like they wouldn't show him below the waist because theater and television wasn't ready for that.
I love that play.
Right. But, it was kind of like, oh my God, now you wouldn't think about it, or the Beatles. That was theater on Ed Sullivan. They had that down. But the song structure was airtight. There wasn't 10 seconds too much on any of those songs. And if you look at the masters, whether it's Petty or Lennon, or early Elvis, Hank Williams, Prince, Marvin Gaye, and Bob Marley. The list goes on. Loretta Lynn, Dolly Parton. There's not 20 seconds. 20 seconds in a song, that's like dead air time on a radio show. So those are the things that Gray and I talk about. And we do this song after song, and we just don't go on automatic pilot. Every song could have a different structure too. We just look at it fresh, like we're starting all over again. And we do that on every single song. And I think at the end of the day, it's going to help the songs and the record. And I really hope people like what's going on with it. That's what it's all about.
It is. And what you said is important, is that you want people to listen to it again. So what I do the same thing when I'm writing with somebody. It'll be like, sometimes it'll be like, that's a beautiful song, but it's too much. It's like, if you give them everything, it's like, okay, I'm satisfied. Why do I want to listen to that again? You got to leave them wanting more. How do you get more? You listen to it again.
Yeah. And sometimes the idea will hit you maybe the next time. The next day, the next week. Sometimes it all comes down at once, But I just want to say thank you to you guys for having us. And Gray's single will come out on the 5th, and the Holy Brothers single is out. It's called Lift You Up. And we did a tribute to Martin Luther King Jr. with Stefan Ferguson as the voice of Martin Luther King. And then my solo single is called Love Letter to Democracy. So we're putting out a few singles this month, and Gray's Valentine's single, the one Murray wrote, will be out on the 5th. And the video is really nice as well. And then we're going to be on the 12th, we'll be on, they're going to feature Gray's video and the Holy Brothers video there's going to be a show by a new label out of Boston called Red on Red Records. So you can find that and check that out. So this is kind of our way of touring, doing this stuff.
And I'm doing a live TikTok stream on February 11th at 7 p.m. Pacific.
Are you?
Pacific. Yeah, six songs, just a little mini concert in the living room.
Oh,
so
cool.
Yeah.
So you do comedy as well, Gray, and I've got a comedy show with Henry Cho coming to show in April. So
I would love to be. Yeah, that would be fun. I haven't done any Zoom. I did one Zoom comedy show, and it was so demoralizing because I was like, because the laughter is just a little bit off, and it's just that half a second where you're like, I'm horrible. No one likes it. Okay, they're laughing. Okay,
Gray, a few years ago, Gray called me up. He says, I'm playing a club. I go, playing a club? What band did she put together? She didn't even ask me.
I was at the comedy store. I was at the comedy store.
And she goes, I'm doing comedy. I go, what are you? Yeah, I know that, but what are you talking about? And he says, no, I'm doing comedy. I'm doing a stage. She's playing a comedy club, and I'm telling you, you got to have her as a guest. It'll be so much fun.
Going to.
Yeah, I mean, and she's great live as a comic. I mean, she kind of has like about 3-4, heads inside. Like if for like most people I know, seriously, for most people I know, if they could do one of the things that Gray does, like pick one. Okay, I'm going to be a comic. Okay, great. They'd be set for life. Oh, no, I think I'll do voiceover. I'll pick that part of her. Okay, you're set for life. I want to be a songwriter. Yeah, I wish I could write that song like her. Whatever she does, but she has this ability, an uncanny ability to compartmentalize her life and her day, that she can just keep doing this all day long. In the day, she's doing voiceover. Now she's doing this. Now she'll record. She'll probably.
I have a little comedy special on Amazon if you want to check it out. It's called My First Comedy Special. It's on Amazon Prime.
And that's out. Is that out now?
Mm-hmm.
That's
it's been out
now?
for a couple of years. Yeah.
Oh, okay, great.
It's very early in my stand-up, so I'm better now, but it's a cute little time capsule.
Oh, yeah. I was there for the taping.
Yes.
Yeah, that's right. That was great.
Yeah, check it out. We have Amazon. I'm gonna watch it.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
As you should.
Yeah,
absolutely. Okay. Well, you know what, Robbie? We normally do our show end after everybody, but I think we all just do it together. What do you think?
Yeah,
sure.
So we've got some guests coming up. You guys might like to hear about this. Robbie, who do we have next week?
Where's the list?
Well, it looks like Gray and I will be on it next week.
We've got
if you guys can't figure it out, what the hell?
We didn't get to model yet, so model 1976 model. You know what I'm talking about? Come on, Marvin.
All right, we'll get to the model. We got some unreleased recordings by the model. What's that?
So
he's trying to slip me the information.
Actually, I'm trying to get it from production because they're not whispering in my ear right now. I can tell you that we've got the legendary Don McLean on with us on.
Oh my God, that's great.
Tomorrow is the 62nd anniversary of the death of Buddy Holly, Richie Valens, the Big Bopper, and the 50th anniversary of Don McLean's release of American Pie.
That's right.
He will be here on February 16th and live on FM with me tomorrow at 8:30 in the morning to do a live interview tomorrow on the actual death date. So,
wow.
Yeah, pretty.
You gotta get them on there too. Get them both on the show.
I'm going to get these guys on Jack FM. I'm serious about putting you on a stage here in San Angelo with Henry Cho and getting you guys out here to play some music. Because Marvin, I think you're fantastic.
Great, I'd love it.
And Don McLean's song that was like a standalone record. American Pie. There was really no record exactly like that. Even though it was acoustic, and it certainly had a
Uh-oh.
Oh, no.
Marvin's frozen.
He's frozen. What happened?
Frozen in time.
Uh-oh.
There,
But
we can hear you.
he had his own thing on that song in particular, and it's no accident that record has lasted the decades. And please tell him thank you for that one.
Yeah, I'm very looking forward to talking with him in the morning. It's going to be a great conversation.
Fantastic.
Robert Randolph is our guest next week.
Fantastic.
Yeah, one of Rolling Stone's top 100 guitarists of all times.
That's
That
correct.
should be a great show tomorrow, or next Tuesday. So thank you so much, guys. I appreciate you here at the Hangout. As always, take care of each other. We love you.
Thank you.
All
And
right.
we'll see you next time.
Okay.
That's the Hangout
Bye.
Live.
God
Thanks.
bless.
Bye.